Littlefinger, I can handle him. He says, fight every battle in your mind and everywhere that you are. She quotes this to him. I feel like this is advice Littlefinger's given. And she's even said to Jon, Littlefinger's doing, I know Littlefinger's game and I know how to manage him and I know what he's about. So I do agree with you. I do think that Littlefinger is changing his game up. I'm very interested to see what's happening there because I can't quite peg him for what's happening there. But I do think that Sansa's very smart, especially with everything in her entire journey. I don't know that it's going to be enough for Littlefinger to just be a little bit more endearing, for her to just be like, oh, okay, great, let's be friends again. I feel like she, especially with everything she's been through, I think it's going to take a heck of a lot more than that for her to start trusting, especially someone like Littlefinger. I think family is the only thing that matters to her right now.
And I'm going to pull a little bit of my professional expertise in at this point.
Book expert, John.
Not my book expert, my actual day job expert. I'm a trauma therapist, and one of the things that we like to say is when you are a nail, everything looks like a hammer. So it is possible that Sansa is seeing threats from all sides when some things are not threats. Maybe Littlefinger's not a threat. Maybe Littlefinger is actually being genuine in this case. It's really hard to say. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like what was different about it is it really struck a chord for her for some reason. Like, the look on her face when he says it doesn't necessarily tell me that he's back in her ear, but it does tell me that, like, okay, yes, I hear you now because holy shit, this is hard. But she has this figure and confidence that we've talked about where she walks through the castle and she's like, we need grain, we need, leather on the armor, et cetera, et cetera. And you see her be powerful and open and honest and really taking control of being the queen of Winterfell, but I don't see her saying, you know what, Littlefinger, yeah, we should get a drink and talk about that because you're onto something.
So I don't want to get on too much of a tangent on this, but I do have something that I want to bring up, a theory that I have that I can't say it's my theory. I can't take all the credit for it. I have read a lot of this stuff online, but I want to bring up Cat's Paw. Cat's Paw is the dagger, the Valyrian steel dagger.
Right. That comes up in that teaser.
Yes, exactly.
For like a very brief second.
Quick second,
somebody
right?
taking it from its sheath.
And there's also, you guys should look up when you get a second, the HBO Nordic teaser for next week's episode. It really heavily favors Cat's Paw, right? So I think we're going to see that dagger come
for
back.
anybody not in the know, is the dagger that was used in the assassination attempt of Bran back in season 1, and it is also Valyrian steel.
Yep, in the possession of Littlefinger right now, because the last time that we saw Cat's Paw was up against Ned Stark's throat when the entire, when all of that went down, essentially. So, here's my theory, and, well, the theory that I'm presenting to you again. Can't claim this as my own, but you know what? Fuck it. It's my podcast. I'm going to do it. So that quick view of the dagger that John brought up that we see in the preview for next week is clearly in Littlefinger's hand. It's a ring that I think IGN had the article that I'm referencing, and it showed the hand of Littlefinger from a different episode or something. The ring, and it's got this embroidered sleeve that is very much a Littlefinger outfit. So he's got it, and we're going to see that next episode. But then some eagle-eyed viewers pointed out that on an Entertainment Weekly cover,
Arya's got it.
Arya's got it.
Yep.
Have you seen this, Seth?
Yes, I
so
have.
Arya's got it. And so let's just take a second to think about how beautiful it would be if, not only Arya killed Littlefinger, but if Arya could add Littlefinger's mask to her collection. That could be a really interesting tool for Arya to have moving forward. And then not only that, but she would have a Valyrian steel dagger, which, could make Arya
far between.
Yeah, a pretty powerful, a little more powerful ammunition to give to Arya's character moving forward.
I love Arya so much that I want all of these theories to come true because she's the faceless man, so she could be everywhere all at once and kill everybody, and then she would just be the last
Fighting
person
battles everywhere all the time.
Maybe she is Cat's Paw. That's what I was thinking while you were talking through the...
All right,
sorry.
What's the next scene?
Bran and Sansa.
We gotta talk about it.
Emotionless hug. Jesus. Bran is broke.
Bran's just emotionless.
Yeah,
This
he
is
is
what
broken.
people do.
He has seen some stuff.
Can somebody get Bran a freaking Snuggie for the holy shit, like that dude, and he's just cold and withering away and getting dragged everywhere.
I just want to shout out again to Mira Reed for just hauling his ass all over the place. She gets 1 second of screen time, kind of looks away, and that's right back to the start reunion.
But
she's not getting
still
anything.
there. So I think
Yeah, she's got a part to play.
The
right?
Reeds aren't done yet.
She absolutely does.
And I don't think it's come up in the series yet, but the Reeds have a very interesting hold. It's like alive and it moves and it's very exciting.
So one thing I was curious about, what do we know about Jojen and Mira's father, Howland? Is he still
Not a lot?
We only know from Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven going to the Tower of Joy. That's it.
And he's still alive after that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, what little they added in the books is that where the Reed homeland is, it moves. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
So you're saying their castle is different places at different times throughout?
it's alive.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, I see, yes.
It's alive. But yeah, so I think obviously with Mira Reed still being there, I mean, that's kind of like one of the last major parties in the North that hasn't come to play.
Yeah. I want to bring up, too, in this meeting between Bran and Sansa, John and I were just rewatching this episode a bit before we started this episode, and we saw the moment where underneath the red tree, the first thing that Bran brings up to Sansa is, what was it? The first thing he brings up is like,
You look
you look so
beautiful.
beautiful on your wedding day
It
with
was snowing
Ramsay.
just like this.
And, like, you
Biggest buzzkill
Yeah.
ever.
don't you think like Bran maybe should have opened with like, oh hey, by the way, you know our brother John? I think he's actually like our cousin, and then
It could have been any memory
so
ever,
many
but it
other
was
things.
that.
Okay, so I have a philosophy of why he did it.
Because that's when Sansa turned.
Yes, partially. It kind of plays off that. So my theory was that he is doing it as a subtle way of keeping it in her mind that Littlefinger is playing her, and that he set up all of the stuff to marry Ramsay, and that's when it all began. So I think in his own cryptic, very, I don't know, emo phase, he decided that that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, he's like such a freaking he just walks in and Sansa's like, oh my god, so good to see you. And he's like, yeah, where's John at? Doesn't he say that right at the beginning?
Yeah,
so
I want
I
to
wish-
speak with him.
I want to
I
speak
wish
with
John
John.
was here.
think
And
about
yeah.
the things that he could share with him right away. It's like, John, we gotta talk.
But
However, it proves that he cannot be descriptive about anything
And
because
it's
he
important-
literally just can't figure out how to put words to the fact that he is a three-eyed raven.
and that's it. I think it's important to know that, and so there's a lot of stuff going on the internet right now about what this all means. And in the books, the three-eyed raven that Bronn meets is a very different person, I think, than the three-eyed raven that Bronn meets in the show. So time travel is starting to come into play here, and as I think most of us are aware, whenever time travel gets introduced into a TV show, it gets really weird and rules just fly out the window.
Shout out to Lost.
But, you know, I think we're seeing Bronn as the three-eyed raven, but he doesn't quite know what being a three-eyed raven means. Like when he says, when Sansa asks, well, try to explain it. It's like, well, three-eyed raven taught me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And
but
that's
you're
a-
the three-eyed raven. It's like, well, it's hard to explain. And he doesn't, he's not ready to view everything all at once.
And that's such like a TV problem I have. Like TV shows do this all the time. Where like, I'm not really going to tell you, so we're going to make it dramatic and tension here, right? But I think, and this shout out to Carl, our coworker, for this theory. This is my favorite theory of all time. Did Bran become the three-eyed raven? Like, is it still Bran as the three-eyed raven, or is what he's saying? Is he saying that the three-eyed raven is now becoming him, and he's a surrogate for the three-eyed raven? it's complicated.
Time
This,
travel.
yeah, right. And
Hey,
this,
Carl.
and that makes so much more sense to me, right? Like, if it was Bran, of course he'd be really happy to see his sister, even with all the shit he's seen and all the things he's come to grasp with. But it makes more sense if it's just a person who's been trapped in all these other bodies for such a long period of time that he's, like, exhausted by it, and he knows he has to continue doing the work of the people to try to make sure the White Walkers don't show up. I think that's amazing.
Damn, that's a great theory.
Great.
We're gonna get Carl on the show.
I
Okay,
think this
where
is
do
gonna
we
get confusing?
where do we go
We're
next?
heading to
Yeah.
Jorah and Sam.
Yeah.
Oh
And
shit!
the miraculous curing of
This is so
grayscale.
wild to me because this scene, I think there were so many fan theories. I think we talked about this a bit on our reaction show. But there were so many fan theories about how dragonglass is what cures Jorah, right? And there was even like they slowed down some scenes and like showed that the book that Sam was reading on the left side of the page that showed like the actual dragonglass and how it can cure the spread of infectious diseases and stuff. And then it was just like, nah, just scrape everything off and put this gray goop on it. And you're good. And like now Jorah's cured. Like.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, they sped to that. So, to me, I think that's promising if you're a fan of the Jorah character. And I'm a fan of Jorah. Like, I really do like that character on the show. And to me, this means that they didn't want to spend any more time on this. And they've got bigger plans for Jorah. So they needed to wrap this up pretty quick about him having the grayscale. And so they're going to move him pretty swiftly either back to Daenerys or back to something important. So I'm excited to see where his character arc goes after this. I am also interested to see if I had to come up with like a prediction based off of what we saw in the Citadel this week. Jorah leaves and maybe Sam joins, and so Jorah has Heartsbane, the Valyrian steel blade, with Sam and Gilly and Little Sam and stuff too. So
Yeah.
I think that could be a pretty interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, from like a Jorah perspective, to your point, like there were all these fan theories too about like how do they put Victorian Greyjoy, who I know John has talked about on the show, into the book or into the show itself. Is he going to come back as some like super, powerful person after being cured by magic? Is this going to be a thing? And we kind of find out, well, yeah, you're just rid of grayscale. So obviously it's important to the show. The way it's gone, and even since season 1. And when Dany leaves him, she says, "I need you by my side." So there's an emotional attachment to Jorah for Dany at this point. A lot of other people thought, too, that like having Sam, go against Ebros's maesterly disciplines, right, and saying, you can't perform this tactic, he'd get kicked out of the Citadel, and that was an engine to get him back into the world. But I think he's got so much more now with these scrolls that come up.
See, I agree. I think there are a couple important parts. I think from Dany's side of it, Jorah is her military strategist. We've clearly seen, not skipping ahead, that Tyrion's plans do not work. He is the political strategist.
Yeah, that's great.
So Jorah really needs to be by her side, and I think it's also a comfort level between the two of them. But I have to agree that there's got to be something in those scrolls that Sam figures out, and so I think they were speeding, and Brogan and I agree that they had to get past this to get Jorah freed up to his point, Sam to get freed up to his point, and just keep the story moving.
Does she care for Jorah? Do we think that she really...
Daenerys?
Yeah, emotionally cares for Jorah? Like that scene where they leave
Hard
each other.
question.
Daenerys is so cold when it comes to dudes. It's like, it's tough to...
I mean, she left
Dario.
Dario back and was like, I can't have
Right.
a lover when I'm over in Westeros.
I think we've all been through that, when we break up with our high school girlfriend, when we go to college. It was really the same idea. But yeah, that's true though. I mean, like, I can't see like Jorah like getting all the way back to Daenerys and Daenerys being like, oh, I didn't actually expect you to
Right.
get that cured and get back here, so this is awkward. I got some things going on right now. Like, I would imagine that, that based on that last scene that we saw with Daenerys and Jorah, she was emotional and she said, go find a cure. Like, as your queen, I command you to go find a cure. So I think she didn't expect him to come back, in all honesty, but I think that, him getting back there could
But
light a flame.
Jorah was also like one of her first loyal followers.
Agreed.
So whether it's a romance type situation or not, like there's a lot of emotional attachment between Daenerys and Jorah.
Yeah.
Have we had a romantic relationship to cheer for since Jon and Ygritte, though? I mean, I don't know if we have.
Brienne and...
Oh, Brienne and
Tormund.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yes.
I just have to say, I think there's a perfect comparison here for Jorah and Daenerys. And I think it is Jacob Bella and Edward. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I feel very strongly that Jorah is Jacob to Daenerys Bella. I just
I just want to make a quick shout out to our upcoming Twilight podcast starring Bethana.
Yeah. I was gonna say before my wife stole my mic that essentially I felt like Jorah was a fatherly figure or more of like an uncle.